willfully forward. He snorted. He scanned the list of contributing editors. He noted my name. He grunted. "Meaningless," he said at last. "What we are looking for is something to show that you will pay your bills. Can you show me a pay stub?"
"I'm freelance," I stammered. "I don't get a paycheck. They pay me by the article."
He drew visibly back from me. He looked sorrowful. "Unreliable," he sighed at last, staring at my ringless fingers. "It says here," he said, peering skeptically at the papers in his hand, "that you are married to a Mr. Douglas Hollis." The tone of his voice implied that he wondered what someone who looked like me might be doing with someone who sounded like that.
"Yes," I replied, "I am."
"And what does Mr. Hollis do for a living?" he inquired. "His income does not seem to be represented here." I considered giving him my feminist line, but one look at his sour face decided me against it.
"He's an artist," I said. "He does sight sculpture. He actually hasn't had much income in the past couple of years, but that's about to change."
"I understand," he said firmly, and made a mark on the paper. Despite his name, Mr. Hollis was clearly no more trustworthy than myself. After months of pleading, the bank was finally persuaded to part with a Visa card. If I proved conscientious and faithful in my payments, the manager suggested, I might in due time be permitted a bit more credit. We would have to see. In the meantime, he was prepared to go out on a $250 limb. It was not enough. I was not surprised. I had known from the start that this job would be trouble. I had been writing short magazine articles for a couple of years, but nobody I knew took them seriously. They were considered, like my restaurant job, just a sideline to support my real work as a novelist. Fixing the money part turned out to be easy. I wrote the fancy French restaurant a check and asked my editor for an advance. The rest would be more complicated. On the day I became a restaurant critic, my primary emotion was fear. As I drove home from the magazine, I practiced breaking the news to the people I loved best. I found the prospect so terrifying that I forgot to be frightened of the bridge, and I reached the far side of the bay before realizing that I had crossed the entire span without my usual panic. I turned off the freeway, and as my ancient car bumped through the Berkeley flatlands, past the small old cottages with their softly fading paint, I tried to find the perfect way to put it. "I've just gotten the best job in the world." As I heard myself say the words, I knew they wouldn't do. They would be fine in San Francisco or New York, but this was the People's Republic of Berkeley. This was the heart of the counterculture. Every single person I knew was going to disapprove. I walked into the hallway of the peeling Victorian house I shared with my husband and 5 other people and waited for their reactions. Nick, our household patriarch, was sitting in the shabby, crowded living room. He stroked the bushy beard that gave him the air of a prophet and said, "Let me get this straight." He plunked himself into one of the tattered armchairs we had found at the flea market and began pushing the stuffing back into the arm. "You're going to spend your life telling spoiled rich people where to eat too much obscene food?" "Something like that," I murmured, too embarrassed to defend myself. He shook his head in disappointment. A devotee of millet and Dr. Bronner's balanced mineral bouillon, Nick had done his Berkeley best to turn our household into a model of politically correct consumption. We had, at various times, been ovo-lacto-vegetarians and vegans, and we were, at all times, vigilant about the excesses of agribusiness. For a long while we grew our own food, and we even, for a short while, depended upon dumpsters for our raw ingredients. Nick had valiantly tried to overlook my forays into the world of fancy food, but this was going too far. For the first time in the many years I had known him, he became speechless. Jules, the most sympathetic member of our household, tried to be optimistic. He poured himself a glass of wine from the gallon jug on the table.